Hey everyone out there on the internet lands, welcome to another episode of the Discussionists. My name is Michael and I'm here with two very good friends of mine. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey everybody, this is Elias with Raven Murder Studios, or from Raven Murder Studios, and to my left is...
I am Jake from Variant Pitch.
And today we are talking about probably the most fangasmist thing on the internet right now, and that's Star Wars. And especially...
Shocker.
Yeah, I know, right?
Literally every video you click on is related to Star Wars, and this is one of them. Thank you for clicking this one.
Right?
You are contributing to the problem, as are we.
We can't help it. I mean, with the advent here of Force Awakens, getting to see everyone from, previous episodes getting on with their lives and their deaths.
And their deaths. Lives, deaths.
Oh, but by the way,
spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Serious spoilers.
I think it's fairly safe to assume at this point that pretty much all discussions on this topic will be spoiler-ridden, because, I mean, it's been out for how many weeks now?
Yeah.
And it's been sold out every single weekend it has been out, so I think it's a fairly safe assumption that...
So, and we've seen that it has topped its original...
It has beaten every film theater record.
Even adjusted for inflation.
Oh
my gosh.
So, J.J. Abrams, well done.
Yes.
That was...
people had doubts, and they were wrong.
Yeah, especially where he directed Star Trek and now Star Wars. It's like the bridging two fandoms that should never be bridged.
Seriously.
Yes. He even had the wonder of throwing Simon Pegg in both series.
Yep.
Which takes some balls. He did put a mask on them, though, so I suppose he gets brownie points for that.
And he also killed George Lucas on screen.
Yes, that is true. That is what all the fandom was longing for so many years, was to simply axe the big man and get rid of it.
It's like, thank you for your idea, but please stop.
Please stop.
It was bad.
Yeah. So it definitely proved that Star Wars is viable and that the prequels didn't ruin it.
The prequels didn't ruin it. Star Wars is viable in a modern architecture of filmmaking.
But interestingly, by going to a earlier...
Yes, very much practical effects, a lot of puppetry, which they made a habit of showing as much puppetry as they could in the early scenes, especially on Tatooine. They had multiple puppeteered characters in the background, which I'm sure everyone was happy to see. They made the habit of showing that BB-8 was practical effect before the film even aired.
Did you say Tatooine? I'm pretty sure it's
Jakku.
I mean, don't get us wrong.
Tatooine stand-in number 2.
It pretty much is.
Well, yeah, I mean...
it's really easy to confuse the two, because...
But that also, with that brings us into a topic I want to bring up is, did it follow A New Hope too much?
I would not say too much. It followed it. To a certain degree, I do like George Lucas's original idea of his stories are like poetry that they rhyme. And to a certain degree, in a repetitive trilogy series, that can be quite interesting to see the mirroring of sequences. In this one, I feel like it mirrored enough to be considered similar. It followed the stories enough to be following each arc as it goes through, but it was its own story as well.
Also, this is kind of blasphemous of me to kind of, not to crap on the original New Hope, but I will say that I feel like George Lucas, while he is a great philosopher or architect of the poetry that he speaks of, he's not really great at verse by verse. And I feel like a lot of the people behind him... He is a great
world builder. He's not necessarily a great poet.
Yeah, his dialogue is crap, pretty much. His dialogue is horrible. Pretty much.
He can.
I wouldn't say horrible, but it definitely has its moments where you're
He should never write romance. is the moral of the story.
As the prequels have shown.
Yeah, let's pretend that never happened. I mean, the new ones are almost helping us in that too.
Yeah, the new movie, Episode 7, has made a point to expand on the universe, create something that's further along, and therefore not call back to any of the prequel trilogy. Everyone, I'm sure, noticed the fact that the word midichlorian was not uttered once throughout the entire movie. And I think everyone is quite happy about that fact.
And the fact that we didn't see any of Jar Jar's race, or...
Yeah. And they've made a particular point, I noticed, to not mention a lot of details about the earlier films, even the original trilogy. They mention the characters and kind of the general story that they go through, but they don't, like, hammer in, like, here's their entire life stories. There was a rebellion, they fought off the Empire, and they are these legendary heroes now, but they don't go into specific detail all the time.
I mean, it's been around for 30 years.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's like the Resistance has been, it's been shifting between the Rebellion and the Resistance for 30 years. All these different things have happened that is going to be covered in the new expanded universe. Star Wars Legends is what they're calling it now. And they seem to have a pretty good mindset of what they want to have happened in those 30 years between. I don't know how much of that will be covered in film, how much of that will just be covered in books and comics. They already have one current canon book out right now. I believe it's called Aftermath, which came out, I think it came out sometime in the middle of last year. I'm not sure on that. Which takes place immediately after the events of the 6th movie.
Which, I kind of like want to... Yeah, I want to butt in on that one, only to say that I really find that whole... the way that they're handling, the way that they're dealing, making a whole new expanded universe to...
replace the old
one. Yeah. That's just ultra insulting to me. I mean, it was insulting enough when they said they were decanonizing the expanded universe, which I understood from every standpoint, mostly because you can't follow the expanded universe, or otherwise it's not, you're going to alienate
mechanically it
over
gets,
half of your audience
weird.
Right there, because not every Star Wars fan reads the expanded universe.
But I think the way they handled it was poor, where they said it's just decanonized, it doesn't matter anymore. I think they could have handled a gentler way, where they said it's decanonized in relation to the movies, in relation to the new content we're making. You can have your own thing, that's fine, but it's not going to affect our current filmmaking processes. The new canon that we're introducing is what's going to affect that, but if you want to have your dig, you can have that.
But I suppose it doesn't take away from it entirely. But I do agree that they were kind of harsh on that. Like, everything in the expanded universe is,
And they're also trying to just pull the whole Marvel approach to making a cinematic universe for Star Wars, and I really think that that's just... I suppose it can't hurt. I suppose it can't hurt the original stories if you keep them separate, in the sense where you don't need to have seen all the spin-offs in order to see episodes 7 through 9, without details aren't going to get left behind if you didn't see the few bridging spin-off films. Which, that's another thing that's happening. Spin-off movies. It's not going to be just episodes 7 through 9.
They are pulling a Marvel, in a sense. They are creating a expanded universe in film where, from what I understand, they're going to be having each other year is going to be a proper Star Wars movie, and then each year between is going to have a spin-off film that, from what I understand, won't feature the main characters, won't directly lead into the main plot, but will affect it to a certain degree. I've heard rumors about Obi-Wan, his stories on Tatooine being the potential of one movie, his stories immediately after the formation of the Empire, which would be interesting to see in their current canon, seeing what happened there in the current canon that they're going with. I do feel like they did go with a good balance, where they got rid of the old canon just because they couldn't...
Too many restrictions.
They couldn't deal with it. Well, because in the old expanded universe, a lot of other characters would be dead or born or different at this point, and there's too much for them to introduce into a 30 years later film and have it make sense. So I think that went well. I feel like they pulled enough, like they're pulling small details out of the Expand universe, where like with one of the Skywalker children inevitably being named Ben after Ben Kenobi. I feel like that is something that's, it's not something that's directly out of the Expand universe, but it's something that's acknowledging that the Expand universe was something that was there, and it's something that the fandom will always enjoy, but they can't really have that be the current system.
Well, anyways, we gabbed kind of about our feelings, but what I want to get to...
This would be 3 hours long if we continued
on that. Yeah, just continue to gush like this.
Yes, because every other podcast regarding Star Wars hasn't been 2 to 3 hours long.
Well, let's just for the sake of this, let's go on. Poignant moments that you felt in the movie were definitely something that you digged.
I feel like the comedy they had in the movie, just not slapstick comedy, not poop joke comedies. Yeah, exactly.
Die, Jar Jar, die.
Yeah, they did. Die. It's not the slapstick Three Stooges comedy. It's a clever and realistic comedy. It's a people reacting to crappy situations comedy, especially with Han Solo and BB-8. Those two characters have a lot of comedy surrounding them that feels very natural to them, and I feel that helps. It's a very good feeling in relation to the old trilogy, because the old trilogy had good, realistic comedy in it on occasion, which the prequel trilogy tried to accomplish, and
tried too hard.
And occasionally they did hit that mark, but more often than not, they ended up missing that mark.
And speaking of this comedy, they put in there, any time where Finn and Han Solo were together was usually
quite amusing.
Quite amusing, especially when they're on the Star Killer base and
Force doesn't work like that.
But when Han Solo's doing head gestures and it's just going right over Finn's head.
Yeah, Finn is very much the face of the audience in this film. He is very much in many ways, inept hero, which is what they're both in a degree the inept hero, but he is the more inept one because he didn't ask for any of this. He was the guy who was just going on a lovely little side quest, and then he wandered into the main plot.
Right.
I also love the first introduction of Kylo Ren, where he walks up and it's really all intimidating. People are being slaughtered everywhere. And then the first, Kylo Ren walks up, Poe is kneeled down right before him, and he looks right up at him, and there's a moment of pause where he's just like, do I talk first? You talk first? What happens?
Yeah. It's like, I can't quite understand you with all that thing on your face.
Yeah, it's just it instilled early the fact that to a certain degree, we shouldn't be taking Kylo Ren seriously, because he is very powerful. But he is a man baby.
Does he look like a bitch? Yes, he does.
He is, in a very good sense, Annie's grandchild.
Very much so. But I think we're going to see him come into his own in the next two movies.
He's going to definitely feel like they definitely made the point of saying he's going to complete his training, which means he hadn't at this point, which means he is going to complete training, go through more effort, become even stronger, and
which is a scary thought.
And become more resilient, become more aggressive,
more focused in his aggression.
Yes.
But what about that? Like going back to that opening scene where he just stops a bolt.
Yeah, that was a big thing. That was one thing I'm glad they didn't and have in the trailers, because a lot of people in the Phantom Menace were mad about them showing the double-sided lightsaber in the trailer. I feel like they did a harken back to that in the trailer, the first trailer, where they showed the lightsaber with the crossguard in the trailers, which a lot of people were mad about. They're like, save that for the movie.
I'm basically going to call it the Claber. It's pretty much a Claymore saber that what he has now. I'm going to call it the Claber.
Yeah, but I feel like the bigger moments, technologically wise, like spectacle wise in relation to lightsabers and the Force and Force abilities, is the stopping the bolt, because that's something we haven't seen. We've seen, Jedi deflecting bolts left and right, but just outright stopping one and just holding it there. It exemplifies how powerful he is as a Force user.
Exactly.
And honestly, it also exemplifies that J.J. Abrams could not get into this without having some lens flare in there. Because that shot was just so that the camera could scroll by
a perfectly respectable amount of lens flare.
It wasn't Star Trek by any means.
No.
Yeah.
He made the point of definitely making this visually feel like a Star Wars movie. It's obviously going to be in better quality because they have better technology now. There's CG touch-ups, which are there occasionally. But sound-wise and visually-wise, how they handle their cinematography, it feels like a proper Star Wars movie.
It was certainly edited that way.
Yes.
It was certainly edited that way.
So, now that we've kind of got that out of the way, let's talk about the end.
Yes.
Where that's got kind of like this polarizing effect on people.
The last third of the movie definitely was some of the strongest reactions, even from people who were new to the fandom, that I've seen out of anything. Like, Han and Chewie returning to the series in the second trailer, that was the hook. We've all seen the reaction trailers of people responding to trailer number 2, where they announced Han and Chewie returning, where they announced Leia returning. They had it narrated by Mark Hamill. So that was the big pull, and having the last third of the movie be about Han and his struggle with his son and how well that goes hit really hard on the fandom, because for the fandom, they came in to see the new characters, yes. They also wanted to see what happened with the old characters, and they wanted the torch to be passed off. But for that to happen, certain things have to happen.
Right. And it was so, like, in that whole scene, it was just like, yeah, he's gonna die.
It's like
Han he's got it.
They built
second
it up through the whole movie, but I think that the second he stepped out of the platform was when we knew it was like
that
honestly,
single beam of light coming down. I'm like,
honestly,
okay, yeah.
The moment I knew was, I'm really impressed with them for this too, is that the fact that they had Kylo Ren being Han Solo and Leia's son, not in the trailers. The fact that was revealed to me in the movie was a big thing for me. When they had that, I'm like, what? And the second I thought about that during that sequence they first announced it, I'm like, Han's going to die. There's no way around this. Like, I knew that pretty much right off. Like,
oh yeah,
he's getting up there in years. Harrison Ford is getting up there in years, and he has said he wanted Han Solo to die in the original trilogy. He wanted Han Solo to have a heroic sacrifice in the original trilogy.
Yeah, in Return of the Jedi, but somewhere along the way, he's just like, no, we want a happy ending.
And it's like,
put Ewoks in there.
and he wanted to complete that arc, and now he's feeling that the character has come to an end, and he's worked that out with J.J. Abrams. And they've given Han a good death, a heroic death, and a tragic death. A death of a father, which is what Han became. Because Han went from, skullduggery scoundrel in a cantina to a loving and remorseful father who lost his son to wicked ways.
And also pretty much a war hero.
Yeah. But honestly, the way Han is as a character, him being a war hero, he finds it more of something that's obnoxious than anything else.
It's like, yeah, so what? I saved some people. Big deal.
It's like,
where can I get my money?
Yeah. Because the fact that every time they acknowledge him being the war hero, he shrugs it off, he tries to avoid the topic, and he only accepts the concept of who his life was during the war when Luke is involved, because Luke is his friend. Luke has been missing for a long period of time, and he can't hold up his pride in the face of danger to his friends, which is the defining feature of his character. He has enormous pride in himself, and he is incredibly stubborn, but the one thing that breaks his pride is his caring for other people. He would not have gone to see Kylo Ren. He would have avoided Kylo Ren if Leia had not requested of him to bring their child back, because he was content to run and exist in his pride.
He's actually been running for Leia. It hints he's been running from Leia too, for pretty much, the same reasons.
Yeah. For a considerable deal of time, however long it's been since the betrayal was, because I don't believe they've said how long the time frame was since the betrayal and the events. It just,
my guess is 15 years.
I don't think it's as far as 15. I'm gonna go with 10, because I get the feeling that Kylo was 18 when the betrayal happened. He seems like he's a good 28 right now.
Yeah, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think he's quite into his 30s, but he's definitely feel like late 20s. So he was in his teens when the betrayal happened. He was at his most vulnerable emotionally, and that is when Snoke made his move on the vulnerable Skywalker descendant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of Snoke, who, by the way, is played by Andy Serkis.
Which
that was a surprise.
I did not.
Yeah,
well, it's not a surprise because he's a CG character, and Andy Serkis plays literally every CG character. But
it isn't like anything like any other Andy Serkis.
Yeah, it's a very different Andy Serkis character. I actually didn't notice. A lot of people talked about how whenever they see Andy Serkis playing something in CG, all they can see is Andy Serkis. I didn't even know until I heard someone mention, and I'm like, really?
Oh, wow.
Because he does play his parts really well. He's very good at method acting the role, the face he puts on. I did feel like Snoke was a little overdramatic, but that's what you get from a Sith Lord.
Right.
Yeah, pomp and circumstance.
Technically, he hasn't been confirmed as a Sith Lord. He's...
It is a fairly safe bet, though.
It really is.
How about this? The fact that the Sith weren't even brought up in the entire movie.
Yes, that is the one thing. And
not true. What's her... Maz, the small...
Yeah, she does mention the Sith. It was the Sith, the
passing.
Empire. It was in passing.
It was in past tense, though.
I feel like if Snoke was a Sith Emperor, he is trying to get away from that. It definitely feels like the idea behind the First Order is a fanatist organization. It is an organization that is trying to build almost a religious ideology. They seem very xenophobic, more Nazi-esque than the original Empire was.
Yeah, this is like a pure and condensed version of what the Empire was. Concept
and their goal isn't just to dominate the galaxy. It seems to be to snuff out any light that does not conform with what they have designed. And Snoke, and especially the Knights of Ren, are a concept which we only see in one single shot, where at least that's the assumed, is that the people who surround him in that rain-scattered scene are the Knights of Ren, the other Jedi that betrayed Luke, along with Ren, and went to Snoke with Ren. That they are now his knights, they serve under him, which then serves under Snoke as apprentices.
That right there destroys the whole Sith ideology for the past 10,000 years.
Because I definitely feel like this leader has realized that the Sith kind of have an error in judgment by being really locked in their ways.
Exactly, because before it was always a master and an apprentice. The apprentice would kill the master and find a new apprentice. It's
not practical.
You can't perpetuate yourself.
That's true. But honestly, I think that where that started is not as far back as we think it is, in which to me brings a little more credibility to the theory that what if Snoke is Darth Plagueis?
And I feel that's a very likely scenario, especially considering that he's deviating from the standard Sith philosophies of not having the philosophy of having your student eventually kill the master, because that is what happened to Darth Plagueis. Darth Sidious, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Darth Sidious
the Emperor
apparently killed Darth Plagueis, but Darth Plagueis was rumored to be able to conquer death, so it's quite possible he survived the assassination attempt and is back now with renewed methods so that his students won't try and viciously murder him in his sleep anymore.
Right.
And it seemed like his methods for the dark side were certainly, and I don't want to go so far as to say righteous, but certainly less about...
It almost seemed like he had a semi-loving tone to him, Like,
Yeah.
it was an empathetic tone. But that kind of also leads into Kylo Ren. The name. People have actually analyzed the name Kylo Ren. I don't remember it. It basically relates to the concept of empathy and caring is what Kylo Ren essentially represents as a name. It represents caring and empathy, and I don't remember if it was righteousness. I think that might have been in there somewhere. But it definitely feels like the aura they're trying to go with is that he is trying to raise, like, a Templar-esque group. They feel self-righteous in their cause. They feel loyalty and passion. And they feel that it's right. They don't just feel that it's just powerful. They feel that it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and when you see, like, the dark side and the light side, you know, where the light side is all about temperance and, balance.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? Wow, this is bad.
No, like, extremes.
Yeah, exactly. No
Yeah.
extremes. Try to find another word for it, but where you have the dark side now
is more like a means to an end.
Well,
I
think
you can do whatever, go the quick way, go the easy way, whatever gets you further, no matter what that means.
And then this is expanding upon it. This is expanding upon it by, like, give in to your passions, give in to your
and let go of pain, especially.
Right.
Like, he says specifically, Kylo Ren says he wants to be free of his pain. One of Stokes' methods very well might be to close out your emotions, but in a dark side sense, bury them deep and let them grow and fuel your power. But don't let that pain shape you to do something good. You must use that power for yourself and, you know, for those who help themselves. Because that is the mindset of the dark side of the Force, is those who help themselves succeed. It's you're on your own. If you're strong, you'll be fine. If you're not, then you're under someone's boot.
Yeah.
I feel your hate. I feel your anger. Let it fuel you.
Yes.
Well, let's get to the very end of the movie. That scene with Luke.
With the amazing John Williams score, I pass the torch back to you, Master.
Yep.
And the weird helicopter shot.
Yeah, the weird helicopter shot. I don't hate it as much as I did. Watch it
going
multiple
up to
times.
some
I've kind of
highway.
gotten over it. The first time I watched it, I'm like, okay, that's just silly.
Well, it was jarring. Like,
It's
there was
like,
nothing.
And it's okay, you now just see two people standing on the cliff. Like, before it was really dramatic close-up. Great emoting by Mark Hamill. I'm sure he got paid a great sum to emote that 30 seconds of FaceTime.
Hey, Mark, we want you to stand here
And look really sad.
And look really sad and serious and cry a single manly tear.
But it's also really clear to me that what's coming. I can't wait to see his role in episodes 8 and 9.
Yes.
And for a while, actually, we all thought that Luke was going to be dark side from the way that they've been teasing him, and
which feels feels like a very much bait and switch on J. Abrams. He seems like he has the knack for it now.
Yeah.
Well, we all saw the Matt Patton video. We were like, yeah, that's awesome.
It's
Well,
almost
cool.
like it was planned.
Also, here's the thing. It's also perfect because Han's death in that same vein was planned the same way because it was an original intention. Luke turning to the dark side was one of the original intentions. So if he does later, I doubt it, but at the same time, because they really painted him, especially in the last moments,
As a Yoda.
he's more like Yoda.
He's more of the Yoda character. Han was the Obi-Wan, and now the Luke Skywalker is going to Yoda.
Yeah.
Though, to be fair, in the first episode, originally, Luke didn't kick Darth Vader's ass so much, but, certain themes have changed. Like I said, it rhymes in some ways, it differs in others, to a very, very appealing balance.
Well, let's go to another polarizing scene, and that is the fight between Kylo Ren and the main protagonists.
Yeah.
Rey and Finn.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that was well done. A lot of people initially complained about the fact that they were way too capable of beating him up, but people have since, listed the justifications for that. Emotionally,
He got shot.
He got shot with a bowcaster. The people have made the point that just wrecks people's shit in every other scenario, and he takes it to the torso like a champ.
Yeah, and he just starts punching the wound like, fuck you guys.
And he's still nearly won.
He
Yeah,
very
still
nearly
nearly
won
won.
after being shot.
With a hole in his chest. Like,
Yeah.
dude.
So it's
Props to you.
definitely apparent that he is still quite powerful, and at full strength, very likely could have defeated both of them. I mean, the entire fight with Finn was just toying with him. Like,
oh, yeah. No, Finn was just
was like
whipping the
kibble.
thing. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
I was going to whip this back and forth and
It's
see
like
if it hits him.
it's like he gets pissed off when Finn gets one like lucky hit on him. He's like, "Oh god damn it! I have to pay attention now."
And whoever choreographed this fight, man, good on you, because I think that it's really perfect that we've sort of gone back to a more gritty style of fighting, whereas the original was gritty-esque, but
It was
really,
very
it was-
rudimentary.
It was just practically
Well, they didn't-
tapping.
It was just
the
you
sticks
get you
together.
swing back and forth.
This is choreography.
It's
that
a little
certainly
bit
is
more
realistic.
finesse, but it's not as ridiculous as the prequel
prequels,
trilogies
where
where everyone's
everybody's
flipping and
around and it's-
twirling around. While that was visually appealing, not particularly realistic. A sword fight normally is very gritty and usually don't last for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, because you
Well-
really felt the exhaustion and the sheer.
It's like they all had
Hole
sweat pouring
that it-
off them. The shit was beat out of them, and they're all just like, "Can we just one of us kill the other so that we can like go to bed or something?"
Yeah,
Exactly.
seriously. Oh man.
That was, yeah. Wow.
Oh, so
I
good. So good.
had chills when I was watching that in the theater. I was like, so much hype.
and the dramatic shift in Rey, where she shifts to awakening her inner four senses, and pushes out and switches to a more aggressive stance, gets all up in his face and just wrecks his shit. Just
I love how she just kept stabbing at him too. It's like, I'm not caring about my own defense. I'm just gonna stab this bitch.
because that's
Well, because you
'cause
want to
that-
make sure he doesn't get up. Like, I mean, she
'Cause that-
doesn't want to kill him, but you don't want him to get up.
exactly. That's the aggressive technique. It's no defense whatsoever, and most opponents, when they're fighting a proper duel, if you just utterly drop their defense, they would be utterly dumbstruck. They wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, is this a bluff? Am I gonna go in and then they're gonna fuck me up because I was like, they had some secret defense, and it was like, what do I do? And then they just get up in your face, and you don't have time to think about things.
Well, I think Kylo Ren was mostly thinking about, oh god, my chest. Oh, it hurts so bad.
Oh, my chest. Oh, my shoulder. Oh, my face.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
the real
beautiful
man.
face.
My beautiful.
Okay, can we
beautiful
talk about- can we-
Snape's face?
Can we talk
Snape.
about that for a second?
Severus Snape. Dumbledore.
Can we talk about that for a minute, though? He takes off his helmet, and,
And
it
you
just
immediately lose all respect for him.
yeah, he's just like, look at my glorious locks.
Like, they could have done without the long hair. I feel like if his hair was short, it probably would have helped more. But having the long Annie locks,
and perfectly waved, and
yeah, it just really took away from the intimidation and, his sharp, chiseled, pointy chin.
And I've said this before, but he looked like a love child between Anakin Skywalker and Marius from Les Miserables.
Yes.
Because I'm like looking at him and I'm like, I'm waiting for you to break out in the song about empty chairs and empty tables. Sir,
Yes, exactly.
please.
It's like,
I'm very emotional
we've
right
seen
now.
the pictures of him with a goatee and a mustache, and say that would have been a marvelously good addition to a Star Wars villain.
But with the mustache and the goatee, and then we saw a picture of him where he's smiling at a con. He looks like the missing Franco brother.
Yeah.
He's looking like
Like he
seriously,
actually-
looks just like James Franco.
It's like
scary.
something about him without facial hair and with the long, curly, wafty hair. He looks like a man-child. But when you put facial hair on that man, he gets quite attractive.
Also, you guys should look this up. I think that he recently also did a movie with Daniel Radcliffe. It's a comedy.
Oh.
I can't remember what the title is for the life of me.
That's a discussion for another day.
yes,
Yes,
you folks will have to look that up on your own. But-
I could be mistaken. A lot of those pretty boys, they look pretty similar, but I'm pretty sure it's
All
him.
pretty boys look the same.
Like I said, it could be James Franco because he looked like James Franco. Just saying.
But I would say that definitely after repeated watchings, I've watched it like 4 times at this point.
Yeah.
That the actor does grow on me a bit. I do like his performance more. It grows on me a lot. So I've gotten over a lot of my initial, but that initial gut reaction does have a large effect where, like, I saw him take off the mask and I'm like, could have done that a little, like, more intense. Like, it was, you pull off the it's like, I expected the Seinfeld sound bit to play when he took off the mask, like, dun 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 dun. Like, hi, I'm Kylo Ren. But after a few watchings, I got to see the depth of his character a little bit more. I got to see the actor's performance a little bit more, and I had a better opinion of the performance, but still that initial reaction was a very harsh one.
Yeah.
Also, after seeing him freak out, I suppose, it really, only that face or whatever could match the actions of the I'm gonna destroy
temper tantrums that terrify the like, sir, that's the life support system you're smashing, sir.
It's very expensive. Please stop.
And that moment where the stormtroopers are just like, we're not gonna go that way
like
today.
It must be a Tuesday again.
Well, I think we've gone on long enough about Star Wars, and if we don't stop now, it'll be like another day and a half before we're done. Feel free to leave a comment down below about your favorite Star Wars moment, or maybe another topic for us to discuss.
You will click the subscribe button. You want to click the subscribe button.
I don't think you have quite the skills of Ray, but maybe you will improve.
Okay. Oh, sorry. One more.
Maybe a few more videos in. Maybe you'll get it.
All right, but one more thing I have to bring up. I feel like Ray got the hang of the Force a little too fast, and with no teaching.
That goes into theories, which we might discuss at a later date. Some lovely little fan theories.
Yes.
So with that, have a good night, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yep.
Bye-bye.